So, special day today. We're moving the Ferrari out of the metal shop outside. After all this time, the Ferrari is finally going to see some sunlight.
Things may look fine underneath the fluorescent light, but once you get out, you can really get the whole vision of what's going on with it.
The whole impetus of this project is today. When you're building a complete car body, one of the most important things you can do in the process is to get the hell away from it. And there you can see all the little tiny adjustments that need to be made to make the car completely symmetrical one side to the other. Check the parking lights. Remember I was saying I thought they were a little different?
Yeah.
They are a little different. And we're talking not inches here, we're talking millimeters. See, this side is literally perfect. On the other side, we've got a little bit of a bulge. That's all gonna come out single cut, and you'll just be able to...
Shrink it up?
Yeah, shrink it up. It's okay when it's an absolutely 1950s body, but when I built it, I don't want to see that stuff. It just drives me crazy. Probably nobody would ever notice this.
Yeah, once it's bodyworked and painted.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. The owner of this project wants to drive a GT in traffic. An original 250 GT California Spider is now worth in excess of $20 million. So he commissioned us to build this as something that, whilst very expensive, is repairable and you're not gonna freak out every time somebody walks past it.
So we're gonna give him as close to the original as we can. We started with a 330 chassis. The body is being done by hand the same way that it was done back in the late 50s and early 60s. We've got the V12 in it. Everything on this thing is Ferrari. Come a long way.
Yeah. Well, this one's fought us all the way through, eh? This car has been a long time. It's almost 2 years beyond the point that we thought we would have it at this point. Had a lot of adversity with us between parts wrong and people in Italy not getting their act together. There's no way of making it any faster. So we're talking fairly insignificant adjustments. And once we've got those done, next step.
I was worried we'd be cutting it in half again. Barely slept last night thinking about it. It looks like a car, and it looks like the car that we're trying to make it look like, so that's a good thing.
The Ferrari 250 GT California Spider has been in the metal shop for an awful long time, but it's really close to body and paint, and I'm feeling pretty good about that. This Ferrari is another one of our special projects. We've built this car mostly from scratch and basically just using photographs of other cars as our main reference. In the late 1950s, this was the Ferrari. An original 250 GT California Spider is now worth in excess of $20 million. The owner of this project has commissioned it to be used as a daily driver down in Florida. So we're just doing all the final sort of adjustments, making sure all the seams and gaps are fine. You know, the most time-consuming phase of a car like this is literally making the body. You know, in this day and age, we're used to everything being handed to us. I mean, body men don't make bodies anymore. They just slap new parts on. So it is pretty daunting when you go, okay, we're going to make a car. And what are we starting with? Flat sheets of aluminum.
Oh, this is a problem.
Doors were a challenge. I mean, we started making the doors 2 years ago.
That thing's fighting you a little bit, eh?
I'd rather not talk about it.
When we first got it finished, the car was going to be too hard to get in and out of, so we had to make the doors a little wider.
Fight that door. Keep on fighting. You'll win.
Okay, get the torch.
Okay.
They needed to be adjusted a few times. They'll need some fine-tuning.
Hammer that out a little. Look at that, it actually closed.
Nice, eh?
We're onto something.
And that's the stage we're at now. It's very small jobs, but they're all very, very important.
A lot of it we do have to make. The real car, they only made 50 or 100. So we get to make a lot of these little pieces. You can't just buy them. It's quite a feat. I mean, it sounds simple, but there's a lot of really small adjustments to be made. We've made the latches and all the mechanisms to have the hood open and close. I was able to find pretty good pictures of what the hood latch looked like online. It's easy to make a paper template, because then you're not wasting any material. Then you can transfer that onto a piece of aluminum in this case. On the bandsaw, you can cut the piece out, get a rough shape, and refine the shape down on a belt sander. And if it works, then you bring it up to a full polish, which would be the final finished product. With any fine tuning, they should be perfect. Oh, that's a beautiful thing. Like, we're right on the money, as long as we get rid of that little squeaky sound. I heard a little squeak in the hood, just the mechanism where it unlatches.
Oh, yeah.
Gonna try to lube this hinge up. Give that handle a couple pulls there. Nice and lubed up. No more squeak. Little bit of lube, no problem.
Hey.
Look at that, eh? The car's gotta be perfect when it leaves the metal shop. Just love the feeling of that lack. It's so positive. We're getting really finicky on the Ferrari. We're getting into the nitty-gritty details. Now's the time to make everything perfect. So we've got a gap on the bumper with the fitment on the quarter panel here. We've got a pretty big gap at the front, and there's almost no gap at the back. Bumper's made in another country. It's made in Italy. The car body is made here in-house. They don't line up 100%, and the bumper's actually bolted through the body of the car here, so we don't want a weak spot. So I'm gonna make a decorative spacer. It'll look like a little piece of jewelry around that end of the bumper there. I'll use this piece of aluminum to make the wedge. First, I map out my angle. This is my favorite saw. This one's a Brobo made in Australia. It makes nearly perfect cuts at an incredibly fast speed. Water cooled, there's no other saw that'll cut through a solid chunk of aluminum like this. You'd be here all day on a bandsaw trying to cut that. This would be cooking hot if you used the chop saw. Nothing else, you could just grab the piece and touch it. So this could be our wedge. We'll see how it fits. Just a bang on the right angle. So now I'm gonna trace it out and I'll cut the shape of the bumper on there. And I'll just true it up on the belt sander, get her right down to my lines I drew. All right, because it's filling up a tiny gap that doesn't need to be there, it has to be perfect. That is a perfect fit. Beauty. Moving on. So now I cut a trim piece that I'm gonna weld on. I think this piece will do. Chunk of aluminum. So I'm gonna make it twice as big as I want to start, but there's a method to my madness there. That's gonna help suck a lot of the heat out when I weld it. Otherwise, this piece would probably warp and go all crazy. And there you are. Nice straight 1-inch piece.
Better be quick.
Yeah, you gotta be quick, or I'll melt Dougie's fingers. Aluminum's a real interesting metal to weld. You really have to pour the heat to it, and then as soon as it liquefies, you gotta pull the heat right back. It's easy to melt a piece welding sheet metal aluminum. Now, I am not the best welder in the world, but I am a great grinder.
There's a lot to be said for talent. You know, sometimes, and I've run across this several times in the last 30 years, a guy walks in and he just hits the ground running. I mean, honestly, talent is better than guys I've known who've been working at this for 15, 20 years. He forms the whole thing in his head before he makes it, and then when he makes it, it's like second nature.
All right, I'm happy with that. Got the gap all filled up, it fits the bumper nice. Once the car goes for paint, we can polish it up to 100% there. So I just gotta make one for the other side.
Here, that should just slip right in there. Here we go. No, okay, that's it. It's not going in. Something's Turns out that the drive shaft we have is too long for the new 5-speed transmission, so I'm getting Talon to shorten it so it'll fit properly. Here we go, in here like this.
You betcha, that's the idea. What'd you figure, 57?
56 3/4.
Okay, we'll just see how long it is now and then see how much we gotta shorten it.
Okay, yeah.
So we're 59, 60, and an eighth. Who's good at math?
56 3/4. I got a calculator.
57 3/4.
56 3/4.
We got 60 and an eighth.
16 1/8?
Yeah.
16 1/8.
That's gonna be 60 and this is 6/8.
3 5/8.
3 5/8?
4 5/8.
I'll go over the math and just
Yeah.
measure the out.
Yeah, okay. Good luck. Have fun.
Thanks, Ronnie.
Okay, man. Thank you.
Yeah, good thing Ron's here to help with my fractions mathematication.
So I cruised through the metal shop earlier on today to take a look at the Ferrari because it's getting to a stage where it's basically turning into a car. It looks great, but this is the moment when all of that work that's gone before can be compromised by just the smallest little things. When you paint it, it's too late. So it's at this point that I start to get very, very fussy, and that's with door gaps and seams and the way the whole car is going to come together. So I walked in here a little earlier, Talon, and I mean, it's looking great. I mean, one of the easy things is, you know, looking at the front of the car and just side to side and basically drawing lines from the center of the car in all directions with my eyes. I can see that, you know, a lot of things are going to be done in the body shop. That doesn't concern me. I'm concerned about the windshield here. There's a couple of things with the windshield. I talked to Doug, and he said we don't have the bottom trim piece. You know, we'll do a worldwide search starting tomorrow, but chances are we're not going to find one. So we're going to have to make it. And that, again, details. You can make it, and it can be beautiful, and you put it on, and it's not quite the same color as the other pieces of the windshield surround. Now, if we make it out of stainless, we'll have to do a polish and see if it matches the color of the chrome. If it doesn't, we'll have to make it out of steel and get it chrome. And the same chrome shop that did the other work, so that we get the same color in the chrome as well. You got a gap right in here, so I don't think the trim's gonna fill. It's perfect over there. The body is just a little bit too high on the right-hand side, so the windshield frame is just a little bit high, so we've got to get that down so that the whole assembly sits down exactly evenly.
I've been daydreaming about that. I might make a little pocket in the body itself. I also saw one with welting there. That's almost like cheating.
They would have used welting to make up, like, when this car was originally made, it would have had all this stuff going on, and they would just fill it. I don't allow the kind of filling done on these cars as was done originally. It's a different day and age. We have different technologies. We certainly have the ability to do it right, so let's do it right. In the 1950s, Ferrari went from being sort of a modest little house of designs that were making basically cars for the track to a car that was represented by Hollywood. They were not mass producing. They were making very limited amounts of cars for a very extreme clientele. And they became emblematic of a level of achievement well beyond the normal person. Now, what about this? You got the same overlay on each side? If something isn't perfect, it doesn't need to be perfect in one place, but you've got to match that imperfection on the other side of the car. They have to be imperfectly the same.
Symmetry is key.
Yeah, well, that's it. This is all looking really good. I like the way that that's come in. I'm very pleased about the rear of the car. There have been some issues back there. If you look across here, I think that, is it the trunk that's doing this? Because this looks pretty damn straight. I mean, it's out 70 seconds of an inch, but you can't let that stuff go. Didn't used to be as critical as now, but companies like Audi in the 80s started using laser measuring, and everybody's used to absolute perfect gaps now. So when we build something, we actually have to make it a lot better than they would have made it originally because people were far more forgiving over hand-built. So we have to do the catching up.
Yeah, massage it in,
just massage it in and then do a little filing, and you should probably get it straight as a die. With hand-built cars, there's always things you can find if you've got a trained eye. But the fewer of those, the better. And you sure as hell don't want anything that the untrained eye can see. Yeah, well, it's a car.
It's starting to look like a car.
And I noticed you got the key in the ignition. Isn't that a hopeful sign?
Put this back in the lathe and cut my 3 3/8 inches off. I'm just gonna sand this edge a little bit. But you gotta use different discs when you're working with steel. I've been working with aluminum all day, so you can't cross-contaminate. I'm gonna clean that up actually as well before we stuff her on there. Now's a good time to toss some marbles in there if you're pulling a prank on your friend.
Oh, you've already cut it?
Yep. What were you looking for?
56 3/4.
Bang on.
Perfect.
I'm just gonna watch it spin just to make sure it's really straight before we weld it. Just by eye, you can usually tell if something's out of whack. You can use the blade on the lathe to actually watch for any differences as it goes around. That baby's good to go. Ronnie's good to go. Brand new drive shaft. Hey, Ronnie.
Oh, yeah, you got her?
Hot off the press.
All right.
How's right here on your bench? Right on.
Perfect. Thanks, Talon. You can see where it's chewed right into this housing here, too.
Yeah.
When you're working on specialty cars like the Delahaye, you just can't call up your local jobber and say, hey, send me over a throat bearing for this. They're not available.
I don't know what we could do here. If we could turn it over, space it out, and reuse it.
So we start looking at it and thinking, you know, maybe we can make a throat bearing, we'll put something in there, discussing it, say, like, what could we use?
We'd have to come up with something.
Okay.
Or, like you said, the MG.
That's probably a good idea.
Ooh.
We got any parts upstairs?
I'll be back.
Okay.
You know, it just popped in my head. I remember doing some MGs way back, and they used a carbon block, and it was similar to what this was. Went up to the parts department, went through some of the old transmissions, and boom, there it was. Well, boys,
Yes.
why don't we try something like this one?
Wow.
What's that
Don't tell
off?
me that's from an MG.
70 MG. I had an old tranny upstairs, and this thing is like a brand new unit, and it looks pretty damn close.
Oh,
Look at
that's
that.
unbelievable.
Look at the distance.
Yeah. Does it fit right in there?
Right in. Fits almost perfect.
This thing was made in the other side of the pond. Maybe they just using parts from,
Well,
who knows?
British?
Yeah.
To find two pieces that are the same off two different cars. It almost never happens.
That'll work. That'll do the trick.
You know, to bring it down and say, hey, boys, I just went and picked up your part. It was pretty cool. But all we got to do is drill the hole for the retainers.
Oh, okay.
Because the MG used a clip-style retainer under the back of it, and this uses a pin-style retainer on the end. Somebody can do that.
I bet I can figure that out. I'm just gonna drill a couple holes so that the retaining clips on the Delahaye transmission can work with the piece that we found. I measured up a drill bit that's gonna match our little clips, exactly that. And I know I wanna go this far, so that's why I have the little piece of tape there. Okay, that ought to do her. All right, Ronnie, you wanna try that?
Yeah, that's something.
You can sort of feel the little dimple at the bottom there.
Oh,
It's
I
kinda
see that it lays into. Okay.
straight in.
There we go.
There's strong little clips. Don't make stuff like that anymore.
Something like that there.
Well, part's installed and it's fitting, but it actually has to function still. Wow, that's tight, eh? You think this will work? We're talking really fine tolerances. It doesn't need to pivot much, though.
No, I should be able to get the clutch adjusted okay.
It's amazing we found that upstairs.
That's crazy. MG part. Anyway,
Ron's gonna start throwing her back together, and with any luck, we'll find out soon if it's gonna...
So today, the 250 GT California Spider has finally passed my eyeball test. So at this point, there's a few small tweaks, and then the car is up and out of the metal shop.
Dan started to wrap the Ferrari's dashboard in black leather, and now he's doing the final pieces on it. This has been a long time coming.
This is the whole piece. The whole thing is one piece of leather. And because it's a dashboard, you're gonna be seeing it the whole time you're in the car, so it has to be good leather. So we imported this leather from Italy because they don't use barbed wire fences, and when the cow rubs up against the fence, it'll get a cut, and that'll show up in the leather down the road. If you bought the leather here in North America, you're liable to get 10 to 12 scratches for one hide. The hard part was the gauges here. Once you get these nice and smooth, it's just a question of getting everything stretched. But you can't stretch too much because the sun's going to shrink it. You have to stretch it just enough to lay it flat, but no chance of it coming apart in the sun. Then there's a plate that goes over. We made a cardboard template, and then I give it to the metal shop, and then they make the actual piece out of metal.
Dan. Here you go.
Come
Here's
on.
that piece for you.
Nice. Thank you, sir. Keep up the good work. So now what I'll do is I'll cut out a piece of leather. Looks good. Stitching's nice all the way around, even. Yeah, fits nice. So I've got the leather all in place, so I have to mark the gauges to make sure everything fits well. And it was a little bit tight, but I mean, you don't want anything rattling around. I'll try in the speedometer next. Next, I'm going to do the 5 gauges, which is a little more intricate, but we can do it. So what I usually do is I make a chalk line. This will show where the gauges are. Now I got to look for a pattern that's 2 1/4 inches. So Doug actually took my pattern and made the piece that goes in the dash. I put the leather onto the metal. Now I'll have to cut the middle circles out, then I'll see how it fits with the gauges. Well, that's looking pretty damn good. Yeah, Fits perfect. Beautiful. It's coming together. Won't be long before we step on the gas.
Sweet. I think that looks great. It's amazing that's all made by hand.
When working on rare and vintage cars,
It won't screw in.
you quite often run into weird pieces that just can't be sourced anymore.
Or we'll have to get that plate made.
So here at the Guild, we quite often have no choice but to fabricate these pieces from scratch.
The sad part is nobody will appreciate this piece.
But our most recent project may be the most challenging yet. It's a Mercedes G-Wagon cup holder.
Jen asked me to make some cup holders for the G-Wagon. They're having a hard time finding one that fits. So I think Dan drew a little schematic here. I see like 3 inches. It's in imperial, so it's not even metric. He's a pro, man. This is awesome. I'll make one, and then if it works out, I'll make another one. Tighter clamp, maybe. This will be a nightmare to try to get like nice and perfect.
Working on this Firebird. We just put a new rad in it.
Mercedes G-Wagon came in years ago for a simple restoration. But the project has just never left, with more and more work requested at every step of the way. Its transmission's been swapped for an automatic, and its 4-cylinder motor's been replaced with a V8. Dan even redid the whole interior, so there's nothing left to customize, except for maybe the cup holders.
He says 2 to 2.5 inches tall, so I'm gonna make it a little bigger than that so I can cut any waste off. I'm just gonna cut 3 inches off of this sheet of aluminum here. So I think the easiest would be to wrap this around something that's 3 inches. I think this should be pretty straightforward. Well, there's nothing funner than making something out of nothing, right? You start with a flat piece of metal and turn it into something beautiful. There's Dan himself, the man of the hour. What's happening, Dano?
Not much. What are you working on?
Well, I was passed on this beautiful schematic of yours.
Yeah. So what are you making it?
I'm thinking aluminum,
2 3/4?
3 inch.
3 inch? Sure.
I know a roll of masking tape is 3 inches, and that holds the cup really good, so that's sort of what we're basing it off. Look, I'm just making a spiral for now.
Looks like a spring.
This might be hard to get really nice and perfect. This is terrible. I can't get it to roll nice. I could try the roller. I should try the roller.
Try the roller.
I have no idea how to use the roller. I wonder if that'll do anything. No, I don't know how to use this. What's going on? I don't know. It's not doing anything, though. Well, I thought a cup holder would be easy, but it's turned out to be a job. Just gonna keep trimming this edge down until I get it to 3 inches. But I think my strong point's like building all this custom stuff, just because I like to think out of the box. I've been here just about a year. The only job I've ever had has been working on old cars. It was sort of like a fit pretty good. That's getting pretty close. Just another sliver off of here. Well, my mom said I took everything apart, and that doesn't mean everything went back together. It just means everything came apart. Well, if I use these hose clamps to hold it together, I think it'll just help me produce a circle. And then my dad rebuilt a motor in the backyard one time, and I was like, that is the coolest thing ever, like to take something and make it faster. That's sort of when I got hooked. That's fairly round. Just gotta massage it until it's perfect. So it's a cool group of guys now. I'm learning a lot, which is fun. Just a huge wealth of knowledge here. Dano!
Finished?
Just about.
You could go bigger, even.
I just have this pipe.
See, a cup holder has to be a certain size because there's all different types of cups. It can't be more than 1/4 of an inch from the edges anywhere, right? Just to make it look even. And then when you put the 2 cups together, you can't have 1 cup like this and 1 cup like that. Up until now, I took cup holders for granted in my cars, but I never thought it would be so hard to find exactly the right size, shape, lip, the whole bit.
And then I was gonna just cut a lip and weld it on and then polish it. Or I could try to roll it. And so I don't think I'll be able to make a perfect circle with this sheet metal. Instead, I ordered a piece of pipe. I think that's just the easier way to go. It'll be a little less fabrication, and I'll still be able to make a nice polished ring on the top. It'll work out. Who would have thought it's hard to make a circle? I'm gonna open this up on the lathe, which is my favorite tool to use on the whole planet Earth. I'm just gonna drill a 3-inch hole in here. Well, first I hole saw out a chunk of aluminum. Whoa! That was a lot harder than I expected. So I'll be able to weld that on there. And then weld on a lip. Woohoo! That thing is hot! Oh. I'm gonna cut that off. Does it look like a cup holder yet? And spin that in the lathe and make it round. I want to cut the square part off. So there you go. I got that square chunk cut off. Now I'm going to weld the bottom on. Polish it. There's one down. Oh, yeah, that's beautiful. Like a piece of jewelry. Hey? Hey? Looks good.
Oh, yeah, it's looking at me like those are for the back seat.
It could be.
Just needs a cup holder somewhere up here. Eh?
Yeah, I think so. I'd like to test fit them.
Yeah, okay. I wonder how far back they're going to be from the seat.
Well, are they for the back seat or the front seat?
I have no idea.
Let's, we'll check it out.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, it's looking at me like those are for the back seat.
It could be. Oh, she's tight under that air conditioning.
Oh, that looks pretty good, doesn't it?
Yeah, it looks
Dan's,
awesome.
Dan's done a nice job in this interior. Just needs he needs a cup holder somewhere up here. Good job on those. I know that they're finicky because, and you had to make 2. I mean, there's been a lot of modification on this truck since it came in.
Yeah, this thing's
But
custom.
I think this might be the last one. And now it's just straightforward. Put her together, test her, send her down the road.
Yeah, we'll put
Needs a steering wheel.
maybe a seat.
Yeah, a front end. It's finished.
It's just about done.
Yeah. Anyway, good job.
Up and away. This thing's getting pretty small, so I just want to have the real motor in there so that I can view how much room there is to work with as far as the brakes and the steering.
1930 Dodge Brothers pickup came in last year.
Nope, not turning over. That's not good.
So after we gave the customers the results of our inspection, they decided to go with a full custom. And he's supplied us with an LS motor with a 6-speed transmission. Talon's done a great job extending the cab, chopping it. This thing is going to be one sexy hot rod when we're done.
We'll roll her over there. It's always scary dealing with a motor hanging on a chain. They're not super light.
When building a hot rod from the ground up, mocking up the motor and transmission is crucial
Okay, we'll lower it down a little bit. Nice and gentle.
because it determines a lot of things. The steering, the suspension, the position of the cab. This is where it has to start. I mean, you start in the basement and work your way up.
We gotta lose this canister.
So in this case, we have a monster LS3 6.2 liter, which is over twice the size of the original motor, but about 6 times the horsepower. So everything has to be perfect.
I'm amazed that unscrewed. 90-year-old screws. Yeah. Wow. It's in. Well, that was easy. It's easy because I made it that way. If I didn't have a mock-up block and already have the motor mounts tacked into place, this would have been a nightmare.
No, that fits like a glove. That's beautiful. Now you got your work cut out for you.
Yep, lots of parts to go.
Now that the motor's been mocked in, we can start fabricating and assembling the other parts.
We take this space and put this much stuff in it.
I know, shoehorn it.
Fantabulous.
A huge part of putting the motor in is so I can see how much room I have for stuff like the travel of this brake lever. So now I can see where the motor is, and I can see that this is gonna clear. Whereas if I didn't have the motor in before, I would have just been guessing. Probably would have ran into problems. Let the sparks fly. So I've fabricated some mounts for the master brake cylinder for the 1930 Dodge. I only cut about 90% of the way through. So that's a little trick I learned in the war working on Army Jeeps. You give it a cut, and then that's gonna ensure that it bends right on the line you want. And once you get the shape you want, then you can weld this up, and it's just as strong as it ever was. And Dougie's welding them onto the frame now. We just take the cab off to get in there and weld on it. It makes it a lot easier. The cars come apart all the time. Stuff gets taken apart and put back together. You need to fit pieces, and it's all like a big puzzle. They come apart a lot, and then go back together, and then go back apart. Right now, it's in the metalwork stage. So we're making all the pieces, making everything work, and then we're assembling the thing.
Basically, just gonna try and fit this as best I can, and then weld it solid, grind it, and make it pretty.
Back here. So now that the AC is completed, Talon can fabricate and install the new exhaust system. We don't need the angle down and then that angle and then that angle. We need, a nice flow straight out. But if you can make some nice clean piping coming back and put some mufflers in it so we actually have some sound instead of just some drone. When you start building the exhaust system, with the intricacies on this one, all the different angles, and the fact that we were going off manifolds and pipes that were already there, by flanging it, putting a flange on the original pipe and the pipes that we're putting on, that makes them removable. So that if any work needs to be done, they can come off and be put back on rather than just welding a whole system together. I got some shiny stuff for you. I don't know whether they're gonna keep it chrome or painted, but
It would be a shame to paint this.
I got some shiny stuff for you.
Oh, look at this column.
Nice,
It's ever beautiful.
You wanna stick her in?
Yeah, let's see.
I don't know whether they're gonna keep it chrome or painted, but
It would be a shame to paint this.
I know, it's beauty.
No, it's sort of cool. We got two sort of resto mods on the go right now. 47 Ford. I think because we built this one from the start, this should be a little easier to build the exhaust nice and all that. But yeah, this will be a good one.
I look forward to seeing how this is gonna look a year from now when it rolls out of here. For now, it's all in Talon's head, but that's the key. You have to plan to avoid headaches down the road. All right, have a good one.